Kids here. Pandit, over to you.
Before I begin, it's always a pleasure to see our dear Pandit Shivraj. I did see him come in. I think he's sitting back there. Pandit, I just want you to know that even though we may not talk much, but your very presence here motivates us, teaches us through a language that does not need to be physical or verbalized. Thank you for your presence here. Today, I'd like to talk about poisons of the body, mind, and when I use the word spirit, I'm not talking about the crazy kind of spirit. I'm talking about, when people say you're in a good spirit, you're in a good mood, you're in a good place mentally, that kind of spirit. So poisons of body, mind, and that we exude. By Mahadeo, you have shown us that you have removed many of those poisons in your life. So let's touch on that today. There's this mantra from Rig Veda. Om Abhyudanoti Yatnagam Bhishakti Vishvam Yaturam Praandha Kyani Shrono Bhut. Mantra says that God, He covers all who are Yatnagam, they're naked. He, Bhishakti, heals and cure all who are Yat Vishvam Turam, who are very ill. Through His divine grace, He Andha, the blind man, can prakyat Im, see clearly, and Shrono, the cripple, can niput, walk. We pray that through His divine blessings, that we are gifted with great health, sight, clear mind, and be granted all the material things that brings peace to us. So my fellow souls, let's look at these, let's examine our lives and look at what are these poisons in our lives? There's this thing that we all do, it's called justification. Another word would be an excuse. I've always said that one of our weaknesses is our ability and the ease in which we justify the things we do or the things we don't. We come up with the proper sounding excuses that even sounds good to us. Why we do some of the things that aren't good, and the reasons why we don't do some of the things that we know are good in our lives. These things which are detrimental to our spiritual progress. There's no other word but to describe them as poisons. Those things that cause us so much hurt and so much pain. Are they emotional poisons that poisons us from the inside and leads to an external life of just unhappiness and misery and grief? So let's discuss these poisons which we so voluntarily partake in. So there are different kinds of poisons, the physical kinds, the emotional kind, the mental poisons, the spiritual poisons. Every action of ours which is not good for our body, mind, or spirit is essentially a poison in different aspects of our lives. How much of these poisons we take in, how we deal with them, that's what dictates how much peace we find in our lives. The mind peace, the spiritual peace, All of this is determined by how much of these poisons we take in our lives. So have you ever caught yourself making excuses for things when things don't turn out quite like you wanted? Do you neglect in taking responsibilities for events and circumstances in your life because you failed to do something that you should have done? Are you trying to explain why you didn't do something that you should have? Or why you did something that you shouldn't have done? Are we trying to always explain that? Are you always late for work, but you always have an excuse? Do you find a convenient reason to explain why you couldn't come to Monday? Another excuse. Do you find it easy to think up an excuses for not exercising and not taking care of this gift of God? There's always an excuse for that one. Do you find it hard to wake up and get going in the morning? And you're late to every appointment you have to keep? Is there an excuse for those? Are these little signs, do they tell us that we are living a life of excuses? Then if we do that, are we really living up to the potential that God gave us, this unlimited potential within us, if we keep making excuses for a lot of things that we should do or shouldn't do? You know, I always say that there's always a good excuse in the excuse tree. You just pick one. So even though we're granted unlimited potential by God, by our loving and forgiving God, that if you decide today to move ahead and not make an excuse anymore, He will forgive you. We have this kind of unlimited potential, but yet we willingly choose to use these poisons which inhibit our physical, our mental, and our spiritual capacity. They limit how much of our awesome and divine potential we actually put into use in this life. So you will understand now if I describe our justification and excuses as handicaps which we place on ourselves. Nobody else does it. We tie our hands and we tell the world that, oh, we're helpless. We cover our eyes and we tell the world, oh, we're blind, we can't see. We do that. No one else does it to us. So, today, in Monday, I ask you to look at yourself and say, yeah, where do I cover my own eyes and pretend that I'm blind? And where do I not do things and pretend that I'm incapable of doing them? There's this enlightening shloka from Bhagavad Gita. It tells us the truth so beautifully. Aharatu api sarvasya trividha bhavati priyah yajna tapa tatha danam tesham bhedam imam shrinu. The food, and when you think about food here, think about not just physical food, mental food, the kind of things we allow in our minds, the kind of things we allow in our bodies. The food people prefer to eat is according to their character. That's what this verse from Bhagavad Gita is saying. It depends on the kind of person you are, your level of intellect. But the food we eat also influences our very nature. You know, we hear that expression, we are what we eat. It's true physically, it's also true mentally. We are what we eat. The mind and body influences each other. The same is true for our yajna, the kind of sacrifices we make, and the tapa, the kind of discipline we put in ourselves. The compassionate behavior we show. This shloka teaches us that by eating pure food, the mind also becomes pure. That body-mind connection that many of us don't acknowledge that exists. The reverse is also true. People with pure minds also prefer to eat pure things. One feeds upon the other. So you've heard me say this, use this analogy many times. You have a brand new car. The manufacturer tells you can get 200,000 miles from this car. If you were to use premium fuel, change your oil every 7,000 miles, and take care of it. Yet, you take it home and you put anything in it that will burn. You burn kerosene in it, because it burns. You put any fuel in that body of yours, because maybe it tastes good. You don't change the oil. You don't do the maintenance on it. You don't do all of that. Do you think this car will get you 200,000 miles? No, it will not. And when it don't, it will break down. Will you then go and blame the maker of the car? No. Common sense says no. The physical poison, see? Bhagavad Gita also says, Yatu indriyani manasa niyamya arbate arjuna karma indriyai karma yogam asakta sa vishishyate. The shloka says that the sincere person who tries to regulate and control niyamya, the active karma indriya, the senses, by the mind, they try to control these senses. The mind become the master of the senses. The senses does not become master of the mind. Those who practice that kind of discipline, they eat things, they do things, the things they think and the things they say, they practice and they say them with a disciplined mind. That kind of person who finds no attachment, they're not really attached to any one thing. They live a life detached, they enjoy, but in moderation. That kind of person is vishishyate, far superior and on the path of enlightenment. That's where all of us should try to be, on that path where we're practicing the kind of discipline again, where mind is the master of the senses. How great the teachings of Bhagavad Gita too. This shloka continues. Jena sa nitya sannyasi yana dveshti nakangshati nirvandha hi mahabaho sukham bandha pramuchyate. Bhagavan Sri Krishna here tells Arjuna that he calls Arjuna Mahabaho, the mighty armed one. He says, "O Arjuna, the person who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be Nitya. He who always frees himself, who always renounces. He is a sannyas, a person who let go of the materialness of the world." So what are the mental poisons in our lives? We know what the physical poisons in our lives. What are the mental poisons in our lives? Those kind of thoughts and emotional feelings which poisons our minds and leads to so much unhappiness in our lives, sadness and misery. In combination with the mind-bending physical drugs that some of us use, the smoking and the drinking, the feelings of dislike and the hate and the jealousy and the anger that we allow ourselves to fall into, the anxiety and the fear, these are all emotional poisons which robs us of our mind peace. Those are emotional poisons. Understanding this is so critical to our very existence and our peace of mind, because if we can't conquer these, we can never find that peace of mind we look for. So I hear through the gossip circle someone says something bad of me, and now I hate them in return. It's an emotional poison. You see, that person did not come and poison me. I saw the poison, I picked it up, and I put it in me. Somebody says something that angers me. Is it the thing that they said that anger me, or is it my response to what they say that angered me? It's my response. I chose to pick up that emotional poison and put it in me. Our choice. And then when we're buried in mental anguish, physical pain, and we're mired in this, we're going crazy kind of state of mind, we come to Mahadeo and we say, oh God, help me. But not God didn't pick up those poisons and put it in us. We did. Again, what did we do? We allowed emotions and senses to control the mind. Whereas mind should be controlling the senses. So we fail to learn from Vedas, we fail to learn from Bhagavad Gita. We fail to practice this thing that we chant every Sunday, Tanme Manaha Shiva Sankalpamastu. We fail to practice that to bring peace into our lives. And then we turn to God and we say, why me, oh God, so much hurt and pain in my life. We get into arguments with our brothers and sisters over silly things and material things. And we make them our enemies, and we never talk to them again. And I know of brothers and sisters who have not talked to each other for 30 years because they looked at the things that made them different. They did not look at the things that brought them together. We made that choice to imbibe of that poison. We get into an ego-feeding war of words for positions in places at work and in mandirs and all over the place. And we make enemies with our fellow souls, and then we go through life as a sad slave to our egos. In misery. All of these mental poisons, these emotional poisons, which become spiritual poisons, they stop us from going forward. And who stops us from going forward? We do. No one else. Imagine that coming to Mahadeo this morning, somebody cut me off in the road. And I got so angry, and I'm still steaming, and I can remember that person, and I'm hating this person I don't even know. And I come to work, and my mind is going nuts, and I'm angry, and I'm snapping at everybody in Mahadeo. And yet this person is living his life without even realizing of my existence. How silly. All because I've let emotions and my senses to control me. See how important this is? And this has happened to every single one of us who drives. Somebody has cut you off and you've gone to work, and your whole work day was shot. Your whole work day was miserable because everybody you picked on, all because that one guy made a mistake. So you see, it is in our hands. Control of our lives, finding that peace of mind. It's in our hands. But we getting caught up in the rituals we perform without understanding what's beneath. When I go to do services, even in THTs, I go someplace, we do things other people don't understand. And we don't do things that they think should be done. You see, those things are worthy of an explanation. I always tell people, if you see things you don't understand, ask me. And if you see that we have not done certain things, ask me why not. That way you live in peace, you understand what we do and why we do what we do. It is our job, our duty to make sure other people understand. But instead we use these things, all of these sensating things become spiritual anchors in our lives. The anger and these emotional poisons become anchors in our lives. And in their place, we find that we cannot even practice humility. We cannot practice speaking with a soft tone of voice. We cannot practice using nice, soft, easy words. Because when you open our mouth, just bitterness comes out. But nobody else made us bitter. We made ourselves bitter. My fellow souls, it starts by how we think. You've heard me say this. The things that happens in our lives, we can change those by changing the things we do. And to change the things we do, we have to change the way we think. It begins with thought. And here we are, Bhagavad Gita spends there's an entire chapter, 18 I believe, that tells us how to conquer this same very ego, which we spend a lifetime feeding. When I do this, I'm knowledgeable, I'm not intelligent. I equate it to having all the books. And like my Bhai Gangaram, we always talk. And by the way, when you sing, when you're one of the loudest voices in heaven, and I absolutely love when you join us. But, we talk, and the way we carry ourselves, we ought to be practicing all of these ways of conquering the ego, not feeding the ego. Having the books at home in a glass case where I can show everybody else all the books I have without reading a page of the book, that is just feeding the ego. That is acquiring knowledge without having that knowledge becoming intelligence in my life. Intelligence is the application of knowledge. So my fellow souls, today I'd like you to think about, let us not use this mind as something which is controlled by the senses, and we feed all different kind of poisons into our minds. The foods we eat, the terrible drugs we abuse, the things we smoke, and yet some people use that phrase, you only live once. So they think they can destroy this body all they want. And that is their excuse. Whenever we see food, we eat. I'll ask you this question. You're driving a car down the road. Do you stop and fill up every time you see a gas station? No, even the children know it's no. But isn't that what we do? Every time we see food, we eat. But every time we see a gas station, we don't stop to fill up. We stop to fill up when we're going on a long journey and we decide, let's fill it up. That's okay, going on a long journey, you're not going to see food for the next day. Eat. But every time you're hungry, here's the problem. Most of us we've forgotten what it is like to be hungry. We forget what it feels like to be hungry. Because every time we see food, we eat. Thank you, baby. The baby knows. So let's learn from baby who knows that we should not eat every time we see food. We eat when we're hungry. Not because the clock says, it's lunchtime. But if lunchtime comes around and I'm not hungry, I shouldn't eat. But we eat because we see food or the clock tells us it's time to eat. See how silly that is? Another poison in our life. Good food we make turn to poison because we abuse it. So let us take away from Monday today. Let us let's make a vow to self. Let us be cognizant of the excuses we make in our lives, and let's make one little commitment to self today. Let's say, use the 5-second rule, I call it. Before you say something, think 5 seconds. Let the thought go on in your mind, and then speak. You will find if you do this, what you say will be different. Use that 5-second rule. And then, use that 5-second rule when you're going to make an excuse. So you promise yourself that, before dinner, I'm going to go and I'm going to do 5 minutes of push-ups and sit-ups and whatever. And you come home from work and I'm a bit tired today. It's an excuse. So how about if we do this? Let's promise self that from tomorrow, if you're going to do that, and you know that in your mind it's an excuse, don't listen to it. And see if that makes a difference in our lives. Let's decide to conquer some strategy to conquer some of these poisons in our lives. And that's one of the easiest one we can work with. The other emotional poisons of the things we talk and the gossip and the hate and all of that is something that all of us will need to undertake a personal challenge. You determine what kind of impact those things have in your life. Who you should talk less to because they make you hate or they motivate you to talk like that. Who you should interact more with because they influence you in the right way. Because, my fellow souls, if we do nothing, then nothing changes in our lives. If we do nothing, nothing changes. So today, my takeaway message for you is that let us figure out how to make these changes in our lives. There will always be an excuse. Let us stop making those excuses. And let us do the things in our lives that will make positive changes. I'll leave you with one last message. See, the story of the little black dot. I don't know how many of you heard this. One day a professor entered the classroom and asked his student to prepare that he's got a surprise test for them. They all waited at their desk. He handed out the page, the sheet of paper, with the text facing down. Once he handed them out, he asked everyone to turn the paper up. To everyone's surprise, there was no questions, just a black dot in the center of the page. So he saw the surprise on everyone's faces, and he says, I want you to write about what you see there. They were confused, but they started. At the end, he took all the papers and he read. All of them, with no exception, defined the black dot. The professor explained, he says, I'm not going to grade you on this, I just wanted to give you something to think about. No one wrote about the white part of the paper. Everyone focused on the black dot. The same thing happens in our lives. We're focusing only on the things, the black dots in our lives. We're focused so much on all these negative energies in our lives. But we're not focusing on how we can look at the positive things that would overcome the negative things in our lives. So my fellow souls, today, don't focus on the black dots in your life. When those come up and you hear the excuses that comes up with them, find a way to not listen to those excuses, not make those excuses. And if we do that, one step at a time, your next week will be definitely better than this week. Your next month will be better than this month. Your next year will be better than this year. We will continue on that path of spiritual progress, on this journey in which we're all together. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnamidamidasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. With love and humility in my heart, namaste to each one of you.
Thank you very much, Pandit.